All right. World War II, Korean women, not sex enslaved. A myth bust. And then what it says, unless all Koreans were slaves, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt said in 42. Oh, I don't even know where I don't even get that. A 35-year history of war caused by misunderstanding, mistakes, and maneuvers. Okay. See what we got. All right, in chapter 1, why the comfort women become an issue in the United States. Chapter 2, a very basic misunderstanding on the issue, the origin of the issue. That's chapter 2. Chapter 3 is Americans wanted atrocities by Japanese. Chapter 4, do Americans still need stories of the enslavement of Koreans? Chapter 5, summary, and then closing. I don't know any of this, so we're going to go to chapter 4. Do Americans still need stories of enslavement of Koreans? Yes, because I don't know any story of enslavement of Koreans. So the first story is, yes, we probably do need. So we're going to go start with that one. 61. Do Americans still need stories of enslavement of Koreans? Who maneuvers the issue and what are their objectives? Pro-enslavement, the last struggle against revisionists. From the practical, judicial, academic, historical, and economical points of view, it is apparent that the irrational notions caused moral hazards and financial damages and led to serious damages to national and area securities. The history shall be reviewed based on the evidence and, in a case, be accordingly corrected. The pro-enslavement faction, irrationally just, alleges dreadful events without evidence. Their assertions are based on the following incidents only: the Kono statements, the Japanese government's past apologies, testimonies of comfort women, see the definition in before reading this book, an actual case of abduction and forced prostitution in Indonesia. The pro-enslavement faction asserts their claims is justified on the basis of the above statement, citing special cases or testimonies concerning themselves. While 35 years have passed since Ashi printed the article of the issue in September 1982, when the issue became public, the initiator Sechi Yoshida confessed his falsehood in 1996, but Ashi officially admitted the articles were erroneous and apologized in August 2014. 32 years after his first media breakthrough. There might be a reason other than publishing it as a fact and truth in the media. No idea what they're talking about, but great. Maybe you guys do. Yodishu's son, who studied in Moscow in the 1970s, thought that his father's act was inappropriate. In 2017, his fellow laid a covering with the other words upon the epitaph of a monument that his father contributed in the early 1980s of the National Meiying Cemetery in Cheong City, southeast Cheonan City, southeastern South Korea. Pro-enslavement factions, including Ashi, are idle in searching for truth and coward in correcting their mistakes, but not incapable of trying to prove their opinions. They possess vast and capable talents, including professors, scholars, and lawyers. The conclusion may be that the pro-enslavement people do not have any material to justify their position, and they would know what they cannot do. The pro-enslavement people claim that the comfort women issue is about human rights, about women's rights, and about peace, but it's not easy to figure out what their real objective might be. Mr. Yohei Kono seems to be exceptional. Kono does not fit to any category above and still does not deny his famous statement that comfort women were forcibly recruited by the then Japanese officials, police, and military. Recently, he further insisted that Japan ROK agreement in 2015 was wrong. He must have some other reason than the human rights of the Japanese. Anyways, the last resorts are examined as follows. Um, I'm confused a little bit. Okay, here let's get into the numbers. So, table 4. Because it's about to get into it, I guess. But I mean, this is reading a lot. Um, so the situation is opposite. Japanese government apologized. The government apologized not to the sex-enslaved comfort women, but just to the comfort women who comforted soldiers in the battlefields during the war and who underwent immeasurable and painful experiences and suffered incurable physical and psychological wounds as comfort women. So here's this right here. Here's a chart. You can pause it while I read it. So differences of understanding of each government on the issue. The Japanese government and the Korean government, and then understanding. Comfort women, Japanese government say existed, Korean government said existed. The understanding says it's the same. Sex-slaved comfort women, the Japanese government says it did not exist. The Korean government says it did exist. Their understanding not the same. Apology and remorse. Remorse and apology, the Japanese government, the Korean government, legal and official apology, understanding not the same. Money, atonement money for Japanese government, Korean government, compensation, not the same. Responsibility, moral for the Japanese and Korean is legal, not the same. The pro-enslavement faction may insist that the government did not deny enslavement and slavery life, or even implied them in the words referred to above. They have propagated of these ambiguities. The Japanese government once apologized to enslaved comfort women with a tiny ceremonial amount of money and ceremonial but not a legal apology. The government had paid no attention to such propaganda or had thought the situation would calm down gradually and properly. However, the situation became worse and worse, so recently official and explicit denials of the government have been unrolled and staged at the UN and the Supreme Court from 2016. Yeah. So it's a big argument whether between Japan and Korea, I guess. I'd have to read more of this. I'm not really sure what's going on. But yeah, if you're interested in understanding more, let's see the back. A story of a con artist becomes an internation contended issue involving the U.S., and the issue endangers a diplomatic tie between Japan and South Korea and the security alliances among the U.S., South Korea, and Japan, involving China and North Korea. That didn't tell me anymore. I'm still kind of confused, man. I mean, I'm still kind of confused.